Tantor with a recap of Georgia Tech's 27-18 win over Duke. Won't apologize for getting a win versus a team that completely outplayed us. So no apologies there. We'll take wins anywhere we go. And it just proves that it's better to be lucky than good. Going into this game, I thought Duke was going to really handle Georgia Tech. Football is a game of matchups, and I didn't think Georgia Tech matched up very well against Duke, so I thought Duke was actually going to win this game from the very beginning. I mean, Duke on defense, they attack, they put guys in the box, and they just go after the quarterback. And they play defense on the offensive side of the ball, and that's tough for Georgia Tech to handle with all the slow developing plays we run, with the screens that we run. It just doesn't match up against what Duke does. And obviously it worked for most of the game because running backs for Georgia Tech found little running room and the screens never worked. So the first half, Duke shut Georgia Tech's offense completely down. And then on offense, Duke throws the ball, and they have a lot of big plays. They, one of the top big play teams in the country. And they, quite frankly, just throw the ball down the field, get big chunk plays. We don't defend that well. Georgia Tech doesn't. Not a lot of pressure on the quarterback. And God knows that we can't really cover anybody, any receivers. So I was expecting Duke to really run up and down the field, which they did. They had 448 total yards of offense. But Duke couldn't score. And that's where the defense really did well. They did really well down at the goal line. They had a great goal line stance that kept Duke out of the end zone. And they had two actually good goal line stances. And one of them, Duke, he missed a field goal on one, but they had a botched field goal snap on another. So that's 6 points that Duke didn't get there. And then on another, right at the beginning of the game, where Georgia Tech got a fumble on a poor exchange between the quarterback and the running back for Duke and took it back. So the defense had 7 points of their own, and the only points of Georgia Tech in the first half. I mean, again, Georgia Tech started an away game that they couldn't do anything, and they looked pretty pathetic, and it was another bad half of offensive football. But the defense scored a touchdown, kept Georgia Tech in the game, because it was a bend, don't break mentality. And it worked. It shouldn't have worked, but it did work. Go right with the whole game goes down to explosive plays. All right. Georgia Tech in the first half had 0 plays of over 20 yards. And that's just in the first half, 0. The end of the game was 7. They had 7 plays over 20 yards in the second half, where the offense made some adjustments, changed what they did, and really took off. So what I liked is the second half, Georgia Tech discovered that they had a tight end again. Didn't use the tight end at all in the first half. Second half, went to the tight ends. It really did well. Threw the ball down the field. We did a couple little screen passes at the beginning, but in the third quarter, but we kind of dumped that, and we started throwing the ball down the field. When you do that against Duke's defense, Duke's putting a minimum of 7 guys in the box. We have 5 offensive linemen. They're not going to block 7. All right? It means that your tight ends, they're going to be open. And we were spreading our tight ends out. They were available, and we started using them. And when that happened, Duke's defense really fell apart, and we moved the ball pretty much at will after that. We scored 17 fourth quarter points. Again, when I'm looking at Haynes King, I'm like, God, this guy stinks in the first half. Another horrible first half. He just says, Tantor, screw you. Watch what I'm going to do. He takes over the game, scores 20 points in the second half, 17 in the fourth quarter, and wins this game, carrying the team on his back with 200 yards passing, another 100-plus yards rushing. What can you say? This guy, he's money. He is just money. He's clutch. You need a game one, you go get him. He's just clutch. Mr. Clutch. Haynes King took it over again. On defense, though, what I saw that was different, Duke did different than most teams. Every team we've played this season has double-teamed Vandenberg. All right? they've kept him from being a factor in the game because they double team him, and then the other three guys on the D line, they're not really winning their 1v1s. Duke didn't double team Vandenberg. Why? No clue. Made no sense whatsoever because he dominated out there on the defensive line. He absolutely took over in goal line situations. When Duke needed to get a yard on the ground, they're not getting it on him unless you double team him, and they didn't do it, and they didn't get it. Bottom line, he was great. Second half, Georgia Tech started bringing pressure, made a big difference. We also put in 15. I was harsh on him on the half-season evals. I don't really like his game. But him in zone defense, he was actually dropping the proper distance. He defensed the pass, looked good getting back to the proper distance, and keeping Duke from throwing in that big gap that we usually have between the linebackers and the safety. So I like when 15's out there in the zone. Makes things go a little bit better. We covered, even though we dropped back, our cornerbacks are way too deep. All right. When you play 10 to 12 yards off a wide receiver, Duke's going to throw the screen. They're going to throw inside of you, and it's an easy pitch and catch. But when Duke had to move the ball at the end of the game, that's after we scored. It didn't matter. But when we had to stop them beforehand, we could tighten down the coverage. Our guys had decent coverage, a little bit smaller, got thrown around a little bit, do completed passes over them. But they were typically able to come up and rally and make a tackle and just try to make Duke make plays. And Duke made the plays. So defense has a lot of work to do. But there's talent out there that we can use to do it. I just don't think our defense is good enough to do everything. Missed tackles as well as the soft coverage on defense. I just can't stand with what I hate. Screen passes. I've already said I hated that first. It didn't work against Duke. It wasn't going to work against Duke. We keep doing that. And, yeah, it draws up the defense up close to the line of scrimmage to take advantage of that later on, but you don't need to wait until the fourth quarter to start taking advantage of that. You can take advantage of that in the first quarter. So Duke, they outgained us, outpossessed us, they out-everythinged us, except for beat us on the scoreboard. And they just couldn't execute and score points. That's how you win football games. And as I said against Wake Forest, players make plays. All right? We have players. They made plays. And that's what winners do. And we're winners. We are a winner. 7-0. Have Syracuse next week. And let's keep this thing rolling and let's tighten it up on defense and get a much better result. And hey, the offense, Haynes King, you guys can play in the first half. You guys can do it in the first half. You can throw the ball down the field. You can make plays and put some points on the scoreboard, just like you did the previous week. You just don't have to wait till the second half to turn it on. So let's go out and beat Syracuse next week. 7-0. Go Jackets.